Alright, I'm going to make a video today. This is a top 5 guns. Not really. There's plenty of top 5 guns for whatever situation you're looking for. But I do have some pistols that I'm going to talk about. I have several different kinds. I'm not sure if anybody watching would be a new gun owner, or maybe you're just not very familiar with them, or maybe you have some guns you inherited and you're not quite sure about or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to go through several different ones, not a particular model, but more of a represents different types of guns. But first off, this is just a single action revolver. All have been safety checked, but never hurts to check twice or 3 times. Sometimes that can benefit you. Anyhow, this is a Ruger single 6 in 22 long rifle, and I have the Magnum cylinder too. But there's lots of guns made in a single action revolver style. One of the most popular is the Heritage Rough Rider 22 revolver. It's made pretty much like this, just a little bit of difference. But they're on the cheaper end of things, so a lot of people have them. A lot of people have these. And of course, a lot of people have the old Colt single action and the mini clones that are made of it. Ruger makes a nice one of a Vaquero, and the Blackhawks are single action too. But with a Ruger, most of them have this free spin. So you open the gate and then you load them in, and it just spins like that. Close it up, locks up. To shoot, you have to pull the hammer back and you pull the trigger. You get 1 round. And to get the empties out, you would take and turn it, line the hole up, then take your push rod and it would push an empty case out. So this goes with most of all the single action revolvers. Now the Colt style and the Heritage style, you open the gate but it doesn't free spin. The Ruger doesn't have a half cock, but that's what you would do. You would pull it back to half. It's like 1 or 2 clicks, and then that would free your cylinder to load or unload whatever you need to do, and then you would just ride the hammer back down. Then, still in the revolver world, this is a double action. Cylinder pops out to the side. You have your ejector rod here, pushes the cases out, and there are a million different types, too many to name. This is a Ruger SP101, which is a smaller version of the popular GP100. Then of course you have Colts, Pythons, Anacondas, all the stuff like that. Smith & Wesson 686s and all of those, but they operate the same way. They have a heavy trigger pull for double action, or you can cock it for single action for a light, more accurate shot. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't dry fire, but most of the time on a newer built revolver, you're okay to dry fire it for a bit, or you can get snap caps, but I don't have any. But you pull, that would be 1 shot. There's several different ways you can do it. Some people just train to do it in 1 snap like that, or you can stage it where you pull it back so far and then just a little bit more. But they're pretty simple. They're what a lot of people go to for a self-defense pistol, especially a first time. You can get most standard is like a Smith & Wesson J-frame 38, and that's what they go with. Then here's a single action automatic style, semi-automatic, autoloader, whatever you want to call it. Means with this hammer down, it won't fire. This is a 1911. This is a SIG, so this represents all the 1911s, and the smaller like SIG 938s and I think 238 or something like that is a 380 version, but they work the same way. If it's not cocked, it won't shoot. You pull your hammer back, safety check, but you pull your hammer back, then you have your safety off and the palm safety engaged. Then you get one round, and of course it cycles, you let off, you have another round. But these were designed to carry fully loaded, one in the chamber, and with the safety on. I'm not telling you that's how to carry it, but that's how it's designed to carry. I think it's called condition 1 or something like that. There's lots of videos on the different conditions, but this is a safety and this is a safety. So it's pretty secure like that. Even if you have the safety off, if you don't have that pressed in, it won't go off. But you can carry it like that. You can carry one in the chamber with the hammer down, and then just cock it when you need it, but most people don't recommend that. And they also have a half cock, which means that the hammer is not resting on the firing pin, but it's not fully cocked and ready to go. So you would just thumb it real quick and go from there. But if you do have one of these guns, if you're not familiar with it, that's kind of the basics. And if you want to know more about them, there's plenty more in-depth videos on that. Then moving up the line, this is a double action semi-automatic. It has a hammer and it is cocked. This has a decocker on it, which means you pull that down to make it safe and not run the risk of letting the hammer down with your finger and letting it slip and go off. But this is a SIG SP 2022. This is a good gun. The only complaint I have about it is it does not have a lot of holster selection. This is a kind of a weird gun. It's made a lot like the SIG P229, but it's not quite. It has a polymer frame and it's shaped a little bit different, and I don't think the holsters will interchange. From what I've seen, they don't. And they don't have many holster options for this gun, but other than that, it is a good gun. Being double action, just like the Revolver, if you need it, you can just pull it back. That's one, and then you'll go into single action mode when it racks. Then you have a short reset and a short pull. They're good guns. A lot of people don't like having a heavy first pull and then a lighter second pull, but if that's what you have or that's what you like, there you go. Then here is this is a Glock, but this represents the striker fired world, meaning pretty much all modern pistols. You got Glock, you got Smith & Wesson M&Ps, you got some CZs that are striker, you got SIGs that are striker, all that stuff. No hammer, just pull the trigger and go. These, I believe, are some of the most reliable and most enduring type of pistols. You don't have a lot of small moving parts. You don't really have a firing pin. You have a striker, which so far I haven't had any trouble with strikers. I believe they're pretty tough. They're able to do a lot of dry firing, so you can practice with that. And anyway, with all that being said, now on to this part. If you're just getting a gun or thinking about getting a gun or not that familiar with them, pretty much every video you watch is going to tell you to get training. Get training, get training, get training. And that's all well and good, but sometimes you don't have the money for that. Sometimes you don't have the time for that, which is probably a poor excuse, but anyway. And now with everything being on lockdown, you don't really have the ability to do it. But I'm not going to say that you have to have training so much as just practice. Just take any of these guns that you have, get familiar with it. Like I said, I just went through all the controls, and you get familiar with that, and you don't even have to use any ammo for it. There's plenty of ways that you can get familiar with your gun without ammo. I usually go with the Glocks, but double action are the easiest for dry fire practice, because all you have to do is pull the trigger and it resets itself. Or on striker fire, you pull it, then you have to rack it again. But anyway, with that being said, you can get your grip practice without shooting it. You can get your sight alignment without shooting it. You can get, practice drawing from concealment and presenting and all that stuff without shooting it. You can practice your gun safety without shooting it if you're brand new to it, as far as not pointing it at things that you don't intend to shoot and things like that. Like I said, practice your sight alignment and practice how you're going to shoot when you draw it and present. Some people use both eyes open, some people close one eye. Train yourself to do that. And with the presentation, they call it, having your gun out here, practice looking at a certain thing and then bringing the gun and the sight to it, kind of like point shooting or instinctive shooting, versus having to get the gun and then aim at what you're aiming at. And there are some good tips, I believe, that doesn't cost you any ammo, just some time. You don't have to have somebody to teach you, but you can watch a lot of trainer videos on YouTube and things like that to give you some basics. I'm not saying not get professional training, but you don't have to. Like I said, if you're somebody just getting a gun to have something to protect yourself and all of that, just plan on carrying it, or home defense, putting it on a shelf or something like that, just get the bare minimum ideas of controls. Because if you happen to have one of these guns or all these different types and you get confused between them, then that could be some problems. Like, say I'm used to grabbing this Glock here, pulling it up, pulling the trigger, letting it go, and I have that as a carry gun or something, but I have that in the safe at the time being, and I have a 1911 sitting in a drawer or bedside safe or whatever, by the door, whatever you need for home invasion situation or whatever. If you're going to use different types of guns, be familiar with them, because if you throw this up, pull the trigger, and the hammer's not ready to go, or even if it is and you have the safety on, the gun's not going to work. And especially being in a panic, it might take you 5 seconds to figure out why it won't work. And by then it may be too late. Or if with the revolvers, you're used to the double action and you have a single action laying around for that, or that's what you happen to grab first. If you have, 2 or 3 guns laying in the safe and you grab it out and grab the first gun you get, and you grab this when you meant to have this, pulling the trigger won't work. But anyway, that's kind of a rambling video. I'm not a professional. I'm not a trainer or anything like that. I'm just somebody that likes guns and likes being familiar with them. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. And I may do another video on different types of basic training that you can do with your rifle without going anywhere to shoot or anything like that. But that's about all I can think of on the handgun world. Other than I would just say, you know, make sure before you dry fire or do any kind of handling like that, you make extra sure that it's unloaded, no magazine, things like that. And with something like a Glock, if you had an empty magazine and you were doing dry fire, like I said, you pull one time, it doesn't reset itself, but you can practice some of like malfunction training. You pull it up, pull it one time, which would simulate not add another round. You can practice the tap, rack, and back into battle technique. And again, with these, they're really good for dry fire. And with the object of dry fire, it will help you a lot by getting that practice pulling the trigger without moving the front sight very much. Because if you're pulling the trigger and it's going like that, you're not going to hit what you're aiming at. Anyway, that's about all I can think of for this video, and see ya.